Commander Zelna moved slowly through the ancient ruins. Her four-fingered hand brushed away dust from the stone wall. Strange symbols covered the surface, symbols no one had seen for thousands of years. Recording log day 15. She spoke into her wrist device. "I've found more carvings in the north chamber. They show the same two-legged creatures from the eastern walls." Zelna's skin, pale blue and slightly shimmering, reflected the light from her hover lamp. Her large eyes, completely black except for tiny white pupils, narrowed as she studied the carvings more closely. The creatures in the images stood on two legs. They had no scales, no extra limbs, and no protective shells. They looked weak. Yet the carvings showed them doing amazing things, traveling between stars, surviving in deadly places, and building machines that seemed impossible. These beings, she continued recording, matched the descriptions of the legendary humans mentioned in ancient texts. Most scholars believe they never existed. Zelna disagreed with those scholars. For 3 cycles, she had searched for proof that humans were real. The Galactic Archaeological Society thought she was wasting her time. They had sent her to this forgotten moon just to keep her busy and out of their way. But she had found something real. According to the wall writings she had translated, humans disappeared about 50,000 cycles ago after a terrible war with something called the Void. The text spoke of humans having special abilities no other species possessed, an incredible strength that came not from their bodies, but from something inside them. "Commander Zelna," a voice called from her communication device. "The Council requests your daily report." She sighed. "Tell them I'm still cataloging artifacts. Nothing significant to report yet." Zelna wasn't ready to share her discoveries. The Council would just shut down her work if they knew what she had found. They always feared the unknown. Later that day, as Zelna moved deeper into the ruins, her equipment detected unusual energy readings. They came from behind a sealed door she hadn't been able to open. Energy signature unknown. Her scanner beeped. No match in galactic database. That was strange. The database contained information on every known energy type in the explored galaxy. Zelna placed her specialized cutting tool against the door's edge. After an hour of careful work, the ancient seal broke. Stale air rushed out as the door slowly opened. Inside was a small chamber with a single object in the center, a large metal pod connected to machines that somehow still had power after thousands of years. The pod was covered in frost despite the warm temperature. Zelna approached carefully. The pod's surface showed more of the strange symbols. As she got closer, lights on the machine suddenly flickered on. A screen lit up with symbols that her translator slowly processed. "Emergency protocol. Human genome preservation." The translation read. Zelna's heart beat faster. Her hands trembled as she wiped frost from the pod's clear top section. Inside she could see a figure, a real figure that matched exactly the carvings on the walls. "It can't be," she whispered, her voice shaking. They were just stories, myths from ancient times. But the evidence was right in front of her. In perfect preservation, a human lay sleeping in the pod. Zelna stepped back, her mind racing with the discovery's implications. Every history book would need rewriting. Every theory about galactic development would change. Humans were only legends, she whispered in awe as she stared at the sleeping figure. Until now. Zelna paced around the pod, her mind racing. The Galactic Council had strict rules about ancient technology. Reported, don't touch it, wait for experts. But this was different. This was the discovery of a lifetime. This human might have answers to questions we've been asking for thousands of cycles, she told herself. Her fingers hovered over the pod's control panel. The Council would be angry. She might lose her job. She might even face punishment. Zelna took a deep breath and pressed the largest button on the panel. The chamber filled with a bright white light. The ancient machines rumbled and whirred. Steam escaped from vents around the pod as its top section slowly opened. Zelna stepped back, her heart pounding in her chest. The light was so bright she had to shield her eyes. When the light faded, Zelna lowered her arm and gasped. Standing before her was a human woman. She had light brown skin and dark hair that fell to her shoulders. She wore a tight-fitting white suit with strange symbols on it. She looked confused but alert. The human spoke words Zelna couldn't understand. Zelna quickly adjusted her translator device. "Where am I? Who are you?" The human's words now made sense. "I am Commander Zelna of the Galactic Archaeological Society," Zelna said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You are on Moon CT-7 in the Andromeda sector." The human woman looked around the chamber. "How long was I in stasis?" Zelna hesitated. "According to our records, humans haven't been seen for 50,000 cycles." The human's eyes widened. 50,000. That's longer than planned. She took a deep breath. "My name is Dr. Elena Reyes. I may be the last living human." Zelna couldn't believe what she was hearing. "The last? What happened to your species?" "The records speak of a war with something called the Void." Elena nodded slowly. "We didn't go extinct like your histories probably say. We went into hiding." She walked unsteadily around the chamber, touching the walls as if to confirm they were real. "The war with the Void nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy," Elena continued. "These beings, they came from between dimensions, and for some reason, humans attracted them." "Attracted them? How?" Zelna asked. "Something in our biology, our brains. We never fully understood it," Elena said. "But we learned that our very presence was putting all sentient life at risk. So we created a plan called the Severance." "What was this plan?" Zelna asked, recording every word. "We removed ourselves from the galaxy. We sealed the Void away using technology that required great sacrifice." Elena's voice became sad. "Some humans, like me, were preserved in stasis chambers scattered across the galaxy. Insurance, in case something went wrong." Zelna's communication device suddenly beeped loudly. "Commander Zelna," a stern voice said. "The Council has detected unauthorized power usage at your location. Explain immediately." Before Zelna could answer, Elena grabbed her arm. "Don't tell them about me. Not yet. If I'm awake, something may be wrong with the seals." "What do you mean?" Zelna asked. Elena's eyes showed fear. "The stasis pods were programmed to activate only if the Void began to return." Zelna looked at her device, then back at Elena. She made her decision. "Nothing to report, Council. Just testing some equipment," she said into her device. "We'll return to base tomorrow as scheduled." After turning off her device, Zelna turned to Elena. "We need to get you out of here before they send someone to check." Elena nodded. As she followed Zelna toward the exit, she stopped and looked at a small screen on her wrist that had begun to glow. "What is it?" Zelna asked. Elena's face went pale. "Energy patterns matching Void signatures. They're appearing throughout the galaxy." She looked up at Zelna, her eyes serious. "They're coming back." 3 days later, Elena sat in a small room in the Galactic Council's headquarters. The walls were plain and white. There was only one door, locked from the outside. They called it protective custody, but Elena knew it was really a prison. Council guards had been waiting when Zelna's ship landed. News of a living human had somehow leaked. The Council had taken Elena immediately, separating her from Zelna. Elena paced the room. They had given her new clothes and food, but no information. No one would tell her what happened to Zelna or answer her questions about the Void readings. The door slid open. A tall, thin alien with gray skin entered. "Human Elena, I am Counselor Vex. We have many questions for you." "So do I," Elena said firmly. "Where is Zelna? Have you investigated the energy patterns I warned you about?" Vex ignored her questions. "Our scientists want to study you. Humans are considered myths by most modern scholars." "I'm not a lab specimen," Elena said. "I'm a scientist myself. I need access to your information network to check the Void signatures." "That will not be possible," Vex said coldly. Your species disappeared 50,000 cycles ago after nearly destroying the galaxy in a war. Why should we trust you? Elena tried to stay calm. That's not what happened. We sacrificed ourselves to save everyone. Vex didn't seem convinced. We will decide what to do with you tomorrow. Rest now. After Vex left, Elena sat on her bed, thinking. The council was afraid of her, of what she represented. They wouldn't help her. Late that night, Elena heard a soft knock on the wall. A small section slid open, revealing the hidden passage. Zelma's face appeared in the opening. Quickly, Zelma whispered, "We don't have much time." "How did you find me?" Elena asked, surprised. "I worked in this building for years. I know all its secrets," Zelma said. "I'm facing serious trouble for activating your pod without permission. They've taken my research and equipment." Elena followed Zelna through the narrow passage. "Where are we going?" "My research ship is in the lower bay," Zelna explained. "I've programmed it to accept emergency launch commands." They moved silently through the dark corridors. Twice they had to hide from patrolling guards. Finally, they reached the ship bay. Zelma's ship was small but fast. As they climbed aboard, alarms began to sound throughout the building. "They know you're gone," Zelma said, rushing to the controls. The ship's engines roared to life. Elena sat in the co-pilot's seat. "I need to go to these coordinates." She showed Zelna a series of numbers that had been encoded in her memory. "What's there?" Zelna asked as she guided the ship out of the bay. "Aurora Station, a hidden human outpost," Elena explained. "It might have more answers, and more humans in stasis." The ship shot into space just as Council security vessels began to mobilize. Zelna pushed the engines to maximum speed, quickly leaving the planet behind. "We'll be labeled as criminals now," Zelna said quietly. Elena looked at her new friend. "Why are you helping me?" "You're risking everything." Zelna's large eyes reflected the starlight. "Because I believe your story. And if the void is returning, the Council's fear will only make things worse." As their ship entered faster than light travel, Elena noticed something strange on the sensors. A dead zone in space where no signals could penetrate. "That's not natural," she said, pointing to the screen. Zelna looked worried. "What is it?" "A sign of the void's influence," Elena explained. "They're growing stronger already." The ship shuddered slightly as they passed near the dead zone. For a moment, all the systems flickered. "We need to hurry," Elena said. "But we have to be careful. We're not the only ones hunting now." "What do you mean?" Zelna asked. Elena's face was grim. "The void is hunting too. And it can sense me." "We're being followed," Zelna said, checking the ship's sensors. 3 large vessels had appeared behind them, gaining speed. Elena looked at the screen. "Valorian warships. They must have gotten word from the Council." "Valorians?" Zelma's voice showed worry. "They control this sector. They're extremely powerful and not known for being friendly." The ship rocked as a warning shot passed nearby. A harsh voice came through the communication system. "Unidentified vessel. This is Admiral Krenthak of the Valorian Empire. Your ship is carrying a dangerous entity. Surrender immediately." "How do they know about me?" Elena wondered. Zelna worked quickly at the controls. "The coordinates you gave me." "How much farther?" "We're close," Elena said. "Just past this asteroid field." Zelna guided their small ship into the dense field of space rocks. The larger Valorian ships couldn't follow as easily, but their shots continued, breaking apart asteroids around them. As they moved deeper into the field, strange things began to happen. The ship's instruments showed impossible readings. Space itself seemed to bend around them. "What's happening?" Zelna asked, struggling to keep control. Elena smiled slightly. "Protection systems. Aurora Station has special defenses." Suddenly, the asteroids in front of them seemed to shift, revealing a hidden path. At its end floated a massive structure built into a large asteroid. It was dark except for a few dim lights. Aurora Station, Elena whispered. Their ship passed through an invisible barrier. Behind them, the path disappeared, hiding the station once again. The Valorian ship's signals faded from their sensors. They can't find us now, Elena said. The station exists partially outside normal space. They docked at an empty bay. The station was cold and dark, but as they walked inside, lights began to activate. Systems hummed to life after 50,000 years of waiting. This place is huge, Zelna said, looking around in wonder. They reached a central chamber. Elena placed her hand on a panel, and a large screen lit up. Genetic identification confirmed. Welcome back, Dr. Reyes, a computerized voice said. System status report, Elena commanded. All systems functional. Stasis section intact. 523 occupants in stable condition. Elena's eyes filled with tears. They're alive. I'm not the last one. Zelna touched Elena's shoulder. Your people survived. Elena moved to another control panel. I need to see what's in the station's database. We need to know exactly what happened during the severance. The screen filled with information, images, videos, and text from Earth's final days. It showed humans fighting strange dark shapes that seemed to bend reality around them. The void entities feed on probability manipulation, Elena explained as they watched. Humans evolved with a unique ability. We can influence quantum probability fields with our minds. What does that mean? Zelna asked. We can sense different possible futures and subtly push reality toward one outcome or another. Most humans didn't know they could do this, but the void could sense it. They were drawn to us like predators to prey. The screen showed massive machines being built, humans connecting themselves to these devices. When we realized we were putting all life at risk, we built technology to seal the void away. But it required humans to power it, to sacrifice themselves. As Elena began the process to wake the other humans from stasis, a loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. Warning: multiple objects approaching. Defense systems activating. They rushed to a viewing window. Outside, the asteroid field was lighting up with energy blasts. The Valorian fleet had found them somehow. But behind the Valorian ships, something else was appearing. Areas of space that seemed to fold in on themselves, forming dark spots where stars disappeared. They're here too, Elena said quietly. The void has found us. The station shuddered as the first Valorian weapons hit its outer shields. Elena turned to Zelna, her face determined. We need to wake everyone now. And then I need to talk to Admiral Krenthak before it's too late for all of us. Elena stood before the communication screen. The face of Admiral Krenthak filled the display. Scaled skin, sharp teeth, and eyes that showed no fear. You have 10 minutes to surrender before we destroy your station, the Valorian Admiral growled. Look behind your fleet, Admiral, Elena said calmly. Those dark areas in space, they're not natural. You're being surrounded. The Admiral's expression changed slightly. He barked orders to someone off-screen. What are those things? He demanded. They're called the Void. They exist between dimensions and feed on reality itself, Elena explained. They're the real threat here, not humans. Krenthak's eyes narrowed. Why should I believe you? Because in about 3 minutes, your rear ships will start experiencing system failures, then reality distortions. Then your crew will begin seeing impossible things, Elena said. I can help you fight them, but you need to stop attacking us first. As Elena predicted, alarms began to sound on the Valorian command ship. Reports came in of ships losing power at the back of the fleet. Temporary ceasefire, Krenthak ordered finally. But my weapons remain aimed at your station. While Elena spoke with the Admiral, Zelna helped awaken the first group of humans from stasis. 20 scientists and military personnel now gathered in the station's main hall, quickly catching up on what had happened. Dr. Nolan Park, a tall man with gray hair, studied the readings of the void manifestations. Their presence is stronger than our models predicted. The severance was supposed to keep them contained for at least 100,000 years. Something must have weakened the barriers, Alina said, joining the group after finishing with Krenthak. We need to understand what went wrong. A loud boom shook the station. A section of wall in the far corridor seemed to bend and twist. Then it snapped back to normal. They're testing the station's defenses, Dr. Park said. As more of us wake up, our collective probability field grows stronger. We're attracting them faster. The Valorians have agreed to help, Alina told the group. Admiral Krenthak is sending a delegation to discuss strategy. Zelna had been quiet, studying the station's historical archives. She approached Alina with a strange look on her face. Alina, I found something about my species, the Arcturians. Her voice was shaking. We were created by humans. Alina looked at the data Zelna had found. Genetically engineered caretakers, she read aloud. Your people were designed to watch over the galaxy without attracting the void. My entire history is a lie, Zelna whispered. Everything we believed about our evolution. Alina took Zelna's hand. Your people fulfilled their purpose beautifully. The galaxy survived for 50,000 years because of you. Their moment was interrupted as 6 Valorian officers entered the station, led by Admiral Krenthak himself. The tall, reptilian soldiers looked around with suspicion. So the legends were true, Krenthak said, seeing the humans gathered together. The protectors were real. Protectors? Alina asked. Many species have ancient stories about beings who fought the darkness between stars, Krenthak explained. Even Valorians have such tales, though we considered them children's stories. Before they could continue, a terrible screeching sound filled the air. A section of the station's wall turned black and began to ripple like water. Everyone back, Dr. Park shouted. The black area expanded, forming a hole that seemed to lead nowhere. A long, dark tendril emerged from it, moving like it was searching for something. Void breach, Alina yelled. 2 Valorian soldiers fired their weapons at the tendril. The energy blasts passed right through it. The tendril whipped toward them, touching one soldier who screamed and then flickered. One moment he was there, the next he seemed to be standing 3 feet away. Then back again, his body unable to settle on a single location in space. Alina stepped forward, her eyes focused on the tendril. She raised her hands and concentrated. The air around her seemed to shimmer. What is she doing? Krenthak demanded. Showing you what humans can do, Zelna replied, watching in awe as Alina began to glow with a soft golden light. Golden light flowed from Alina's hands toward the dark tendril. Where the light touched, the tendril seemed to harden and slow down. Alina's face showed intense focus and strain. I can see the probability threads it's manipulating, she said through gritted teeth. I'm forcing them back into normal patterns. The Valorian soldier who had been flickering between locations suddenly stabilized. The tendril withdrew back into the black hole, which slowly shrank until it disappeared completely. Alina collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Dr. Park rushed to help her. That was just one small tendril, Alina said weakly. A full void entity is thousands of times stronger. Admiral Krenthak stared at her with new respect. What exactly did you just do? Humans can see and influence probability at the quantum level, Dr. Park explained. We can counter the void's reality distortions, but only temporarily and at great personal cost. Krenthak made a quick decision. My fleet alone cannot fight these things. I will contact the Galactic Council. They must know what we face. Over the next few days, more humans awoke from stasis. The station buzzed with activity as they shared their knowledge with Zelna and the Valorians. News spread quickly throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council, initially angry about Alina and Zelna's escape, now faced a much bigger problem. Dark spots appeared in multiple sectors, causing ships to disappear and communication systems to fail. The Council has called an emergency meeting of all major species, Zelna reported after receiving a transmission. They're finally taking the void threat seriously. Alina and Krenthak had developed an unlikely partnership, working together to coordinate defense plans. The Admiral had set aside his initial distrust. 15 species have pledged ships to our coalition, Krenthak said, studying a galactic map. The Delvians are bringing their organic technology. The crystalline tire are offering their reality anchoring structures. Alina pointed to a distant point on the map. We need to reach this location, a shattered planet at the edge of the galaxy. It holds the probability forge. What is this forge? Krenthak asked. Our last hope, Alina explained. It's an ancient human weapon designed to reset probability fields and force the void back to their dimension. But it's been dormant for 50,000 years. More ships arrived daily at Aurora Station. The largest joint fleet in galactic history was forming. Species that had been enemies for generations now worked side by side, preparing for battle. Dr. Park approached Alina with a serious expression. We've analyzed the void manifestations. They're growing faster than expected and converging toward the most populated region of the galaxy. How much time do we have? Alina asked. 3 days at most before they reach critical mass. Alina gathered the human leaders along with Krenthak and Zelna. Here's the plan. We will use our natural attraction to the void to our advantage. A small team of humans will draw them to the forge's location. That's suicide, one of the human officers said. Not if we have enough protection, Alina countered. The coalition fleet can create a path for us. Krenthak nodded in agreement. My flagship will lead the escort. Zelna studied the star charts. The route to the forge passes through what's now being called broken space, areas where the laws of physics are already breaking down. Conventional weapons won't work well there, Alina warned. But humans can help navigate those regions. We can sense which probability paths are still stable. As final preparations were made, Alina stood with Zelna on an observation deck, watching the massive fleet assemble. Ships of all sizes and designs moved into formation, their lights shining against the darkness of space. When I found you in that stasis pod, Zelna said quietly, I never imagined it would lead to this. Alina smiled. 50,000 years ago, we sacrificed everything to save the galaxy. Now we have a chance to finish what we started. A loud alarm suddenly sounded throughout the station. All eyes turned to the long-range sensors. The largest void manifestation yet has appeared. Dr. Park's voice announced over the communication system. It's heading straight toward the populated core worlds. Billions of lives are at risk. Alina's face hardened with determination. It's time. The fleet launches in 1 hour. The largest fleet ever assembled moved through space toward the area now called broken space. Thousands of ships from 15 different species flew in formation. Admiral Krenthak's flagship led the way with Alina, Zelna, and Dr. Park on board. We're approaching the edge of broken space, the Valorian navigator announced. Sensors are already showing inconsistent readings. Through the main viewport, they could see strange distortions ahead. Stars seemed to blink and shift position. Light bent in impossible ways. This is where normal physics starts to break down, Alina explained. The void's influence is stronger here. Krenthak turned to Alina. How do we navigate through this? We need humans at the helm of each lead ship, Alina said. We can sense which paths are safer. 20 human volunteers had been distributed among the key vessels. They would use their unique ability to perceive probability fields to guide the fleet. As they entered broken space, reality became increasingly unstable. Ships appeared to be in multiple locations at once. Weapons fired both hit and missed their targets simultaneously. Crew members reported seeing things that couldn't be there. Stay focused on your human guides, Krenthak ordered his fleet. Trust their directions, even if your instruments say otherwise. In the center of broken space, they found what they were looking for, a massive tear in reality, pulsing with dark energy. The void entities were gathering there, appearing as shifting shadows that seemed to absorb light. Battle positions, Krenthak commanded. The fleet spread out according to their plan. Ships with special weapons moved to the front lines. The Delvian organic vessels formed a protective barrier around the smaller craft. The crystalline tire ships positioned themselves at key points to stabilize reality around them. Remember, conventional weapons won't work well here, Elena reminded everyone. Use the modify technology based on human designs. The battle began. The void entities moved toward the fleet, distorting everything they touched. Ships that got too close began to phase in and out of reality, their crews experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously. Elena, Zelna, and a strike team of Valorian soldiers boarded a small, fast ship. Their mission was critical: reach the center of the largest void manifestation and deploy a quantum beacon that would guide them to the probability forge's hidden location. "We need to move now," Elena said, taking the controls. "The fleet can't hold position for long." Their ship darted forward, weaving through the chaos of battle. Energy beams and void tendrils flashed all around them. Elena's hands glowed slightly as she guided the ship, sensing the more stable paths through the chaos. The cost was devastating. Ships vanished into nothingness. Others became frozen in time, their crews trapped in endless loops. Some vessels merged with alternate versions of themselves, creating impossible hybrid technologies. From the command ship, Admiral Krenthak watched as his fleet fought bravely but suffered heavy losses. Suddenly, a massive void tendril wrapped around his vessel, beginning to pull it apart. "Engine core destabilizing," a crew member shouted. Reality anchor failing. On their strike ship, Elena felt Krenthak's vessel being attacked. Without thinking, she reached out with her mind, focusing on the probability threads around the Admiral's ship. "What are you doing?" Zelna asked, seeing Elena's entire body now glowing with golden light. Forcing a single outcome, Elena gasped, her form becoming slightly transparent, the one where his ship survives. The Admiral's vessel stabilized. The void tendril repelled. But Elena collapsed, her physical form flickering like a bad transmission. "Elena," Zelna cried, rushing to her friend. "I'm still here," Elena said weakly. "But using that much power has consequences. I won't be able to do it again." Their small ship finally reached the center of the void manifestation. Dr. Park activated the quantum beacon, sending pulses of energy into the darkness. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to fold, revealing a path through the chaos. At the end of this path, they saw it, the probability forge. An artificial planetoid that seemed to be made of solid light, waiting after 50,000 years. "We found it," Zelna whispered in awe. Elena looked at the forge with determination in her eyes. "Now comes the hard part." The strike team's ship landed on the surface of the probability forge. The structure pulsed with soft light that changed colors slowly. Despite being dormant for 50,000 years, it seemed to be waiting for them. "It's beautiful," Zelna said, stepping onto the surface. Elena, still weak from her earlier effort, walked carefully toward a central structure that rose from the planetoid surface. "The forge has been here all this time, waiting for humans to return." Dr. Park studied the readings on his device. The forge isn't just a weapon. It's a reset switch for an entire sector of reality. As they entered the central chamber, control panels lit up around them. Symbols similar to those from the ruins where Zelna had found Elena appeared on screens. "What does it say?" Zelna asked. "It's explaining the true history of the severance," Elena translated. "The original humans didn't just go into hiding. They sacrificed themselves to create the forge." Dr. Park nodded sadly. "They converted their physical forms into pure probability potential, became one with the machine to give it power." Outside, the void entities began to converge on the forge, drawn by the human presence. The remaining coalition ships fought desperately to buy them time. Elena studied the main control panel. Her face grew serious as she understood what needed to be done. "The forge requires a living human consciousness to guide its power," she said quietly. "Someone needs to connect with it, to become part of it like the original creators did. Zelna understood immediately. No, Alina. There must be another way. There isn't, Alina said gently. This is why I was awakened first. This is what I was meant to do. Admiral Krenthak's voice came through their communication device. Whatever you're going to do it quickly. We can't hold them much longer. Alina turned to Dr. Park. When you return to the other humans, tell them they have a chance to rebuild, to rejoin the galaxy without fear. Dr. Park's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded. It will be done. Alina then faced Zelna. She took her friend's four-fingered hands in her own. Your people were created to watch over the galaxy. Now you'll need to watch over humanity too. Zelna was crying. I only just found you. You made legends real. And you gave me purpose. Alina smiled. Now go. The Forge's activation will create a powerful energy wave. Get back to the ship. After a final embrace, Dr. Park led Zelna out of the chamber despite her protests. Alina turned to the control panel and placed her hands on two glowing circles. The Forge responded immediately. Golden light flowed from the structure into Alina. Her body began to glow brighter, becoming transparent. Outside, Dr. Park and Zelna watched from their ship as Alina's consciousness merged with the Forge. The entire structure pulsed with increasing intensity. The wave is building, Dr. Park said. We need to get back to the fleet. As their ship rejoined the Coalition fleet, they saw the void entities closing in around the Forge, but it was too late for the dark beings. The Forge activated fully, sending out powerful waves of golden energy. Where the waves touched, reality stabilized. The void entities were pushed back, forced into their own dimension. The tiers in space sealed closed. The battle was over. The shattered fleet regrouped, counting their losses and marveling at their survival. 6 months later, Zelna stood on the observation deck of a new research vessel named Alina's Legacy. Thousands of humans had been awakened and were rejoining galactic society. The Galactic Council had welcomed them as heroes from legend. Zelna's communication device beeped with a message on a strange frequency. The screen showed only a few words. The boundaries hold. I am becoming something new. Watch for my return. Zelna smiled through her tears. She looked out at the stars where unusual patterns of light sometimes formed, patterns that some believed were Alina's way of watching over them. Humans were only legends, Zelna whispered, until now. But this time, her voice held no awe, only pride and determination as humanity took its place among the stars once more, no longer just legends but living partners in the galaxy's future.